Good evening. I'm your host, Karen Hudis, in this series on the network of global corporate control. Today's segment is about your role in the global currency reset. Thanks to DCTV, Carmen Stanley, studio producer and director, Maurice Jackson, audio and prompter, and Cruce Starnes, floor director. Last week, we talked about the annual meeting of the finance ministers of the World Bank and IMF's 189 member countries in Washington, D.C., that is at the center, where I vote the shares on the Board of Governors who administer the world's monetary gold reserves, and about how people are working to wake each other up. That is at the grassroots. And Caxil wrote, "Keep at it. Those who are awakened are doing more damage than many others realize. Those of us awakened will continue to wake up others." I told you that we would talk about your role in what is going on. You can see the archives of this series on videos in YouTube, and the videos on secret societies, gold, and the military can be viewed on archive.org. YouTube is owned by Google, and Google was created by the CIA. This series on the network of global corporate control, in other words, the Banking Cartel, has been coming to you for 2.5 years. As insurance, I'm advising you to keep some gold or silver on hand to use as money in the unlikely event that there's a crash of the world's currencies and the Federal Reserve note. This is the same advice which I gave to a gold trading firm called Rosalind Capital that contacted me in August. Rosalind prepared this chart on the price of gold in the 21st century. Here is my correspondence with Rosalind Capital and some more background information that's in the teleprompter. The Federal Reserve note is not the same thing as the dollar. For as long as our recorded history extends, and even before that, we have been exploited by a network of global corporate control that remained mostly hidden from us, thanks to the people who have gone before us, including José Rizal, Ferdinand Marcos, John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King. We can turn the tables. Corruption has been coming into view. So the very first thing that you can do is to be open to seeing things the way they are. What do I mean by that? I mean, don't rule things out. An example is the strange property of monoatomic gold. Monoatomic gold means one atom. We're talking about gold where the atoms are not bonded together. It turns out that monoatomic gold, when it's heated, grows very light, and then it disappears. The banking cartel kept interfering whenever I tried to tell you how we found this out. So I will replay again our clip on monoatomic gold that we first showed you on the 25th of August in 2015 and then repeated on the 21st of February in 2017. And there's a clip of this program. One other final thought that I'd like to leave you with before I conclude the program is about a new form of gold called monoatomic gold. In the late 1970s, an Arizona farmer named David Hudson noticed some very strange materials as he was doing some gold mining on his land. Hudson spent several $million over the following decade figuring out how to obtain and work with these strange materials. In 1989, David Hudson was granted patents on these materials and methods for obtaining them. Many people are claiming that monoatomic gold, also known as white powder gold, holds the key to health, energy, and longevity. What is monoatomic gold? Monoatomic elements are made of single atoms, not bound to one another. One strange and exotic property of monoatomic gold is that when heated to certain temperatures, it becomes lighter, and then it ultimately disappears in a puff of smoke. So this is very interesting. We have a lot to catch up on, and we're going to be doing that. Where does this monoatomic gold go when it reaches its melting point? There are many things that have been hidden from view, including the truth about most of what you think you know about history. Moscow State University has been unraveling the truth about history in its Chronologia website. This website was removed from the internet, and then it was put right back when I complained. That's because a coalition to clean up the corruption coming from the banking cartel has formed, and it's stronger than the banking cartel. I speak for that coalition. You can see in the comment section on our archives that we have reached critical mass. YouTube's counters are broken, and so are the counters in my other social media. Let me give you a news flash from my Twitter account so that you can get some idea of what's going on. And I tweeted, Donald Trump is an imposter, or he would have accepted the United States monetary gold on offer. Donald Trump is an imposter, or he would have accepted the monetary gold of the U.S., which was on offer to him back before the primaries and many times. And I have tweeted him many times, and he has just not responded. I've also tweeted the Council on Economic Advisors and at the White House, and they need to respond, and they haven't, so that's pretty clear. They're imposters because the Constitution is not in effect, and there's nothing really more to say about it. He's working for the banking cartel, and he's a traitor. People want to know how I'm able to do what I'm doing and still stay alive. The quick answer is that love wins out. There are many good people, including the loyal people in the U.S. military, who are helping me. And page 23 of the teleprompter for the March 28th video will give you some idea. We've made it clear to our allies, Germany and Japan, that the U.S. monetary gold reserves are available to keep the U.S. strong and in business. The people helping me are taking a lot of heat right now. So am I. Do I look like a quitter to you? My 21 years in the World Bank's legal department and 10 years after I was fired in retaliation for what I told the U.S. Congress should convince you that I'm not a quitter. That's why I say that one of my roles is the canary in the coal mine, and you can see that on page 23. The Board of Governors reinstated me in 2012. And you, as the building block for the global currency reset, are actually where the action is. We're all working together. Your first job is to realize that your idea of reality is flawed because you're getting tricked by the banking cartel. Many of you are waking up. As I said on the 7th of October, I'm working in real time, and a critical mass knows that most of what's now passing for reality is just the banking cartel's decision about what they want you to think. As I told you, the world's militaries are right with me and with the world's wealth in the global debt facility. They're at peace in the global currency reset. We're now helping people realize that the world is at peace while everybody adjusts to reality. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, which account for 25% of world trade, are moving away from Federal Reserve notes in financing their intercountry trade. Instead, the BRICS nations are financing this trade by using offsets and gold. Americans consistently prefer that the United States acts jointly with other nations in foreign affairs. That's by a 75% majority. A critical mass of Americans are aware that traitors have been betraying their country and causing the United States to become a war criminal guilty of torture and crimes against humanity in successive wars of aggression in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, and now possibly the Ukraine. The traitors are now exposed. It's time to frustrate these agents of the banking cartel by exchanging Federal Reserve notes for currency minted from the United States monetary gold reserves and for local currencies issued by villages and towns. Let me explain why we're doing the global currency reset. It's to end the corruption in our money system. The banking cartel gets to keep the difference between their cost of printing the paper money and the face amount of the bill. That's called seigniorage. Then they charge us interest on country debt. All of our income taxes are going to pay this interest to the banking cartel. This was found out by the Grace Commission appointed by Ronald Reagan, and I have links in the teleprompter to the commission's study. It's a scam because the banking cartel issued bonds to buy up gold in the 1930s. These are called Treaty of Versailles bonds, and they're now worth $2 quadrillion and are held in the global debt facility. I'm the lawyer for the trust that's holding these Treaty of Versailles bonds, and I prevented the banking cartel from buying back the bonds on the cheap. What can you do to end the corruption that's affecting the United States credit rating and about to cause a currency war? People are going to have to wake up to reality sooner or later. Get a study group of at least 3 people together. This is for your own protection. Your people are going to signal to you when you're acting out of character to help you become aware of military scalar and electromagnetic frequency weaponry. This is very real. It was referred to by Poland's Minister of National Defense. I gave you some links on this extremely low-frequency scalar technology on the 2nd of March this year, and I'm giving you these links again in the teleprompter. Work together to figure out what's actually going on as opposed to lies. Develop your critical thinking. Then work with local merchants in your villages and towns to create local currencies. So people acting together are the building block of the global currency reset. There's going to be a large shift ultimately, but this shift is not going to happen in one fell swoop. People can certainly try and imagine what a world without corruption would look like, but the fact remains that we're also going to be interacting with each other all along the cleanup. There's a question about how we're going to get from here to there, and I answered this in a tweet called Putting the Cart Before the Horse, and it was also called Transitioning in the Global Currency Reset. And I sent this on the 8th of October to Roger. And Roger had asked me a question about local exchange in state and municipalities and their exchange practices. And I answered, there are many, many questions in your email. There are fundamental issues, many, many of them, in how we transition during the global currency reset. And states and municipalities figure in because they're building blocks. We also have the issue that Walter Burian signaled for us, the comprehensive annual financial reports. States and municipalities are hiding their investments on the capital markets, and you can find investments which include municipal bonds in the CAFRs. That stands for Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. As I said in a 2014 email, which I just posted in connection with the CIA's attempt to bribe me, I said, I'm not a decision maker. The problem is that all of humanity is going to have to organize itself on a decentralized basis from the grassroots up in order to be able to take decisions for the transition on a non-corrupt basis. And many of these decisions are going to have to be taken upfront before the decisions can be taken by humanity, decentralized. I have just been through this cart before the horse problem with the Board of Governors of the World Bank, and I had to convince them that I wasn't assuming their authority. Hopefully, by the upcoming annual meetings, I'm referring to these meetings, the Board of Governors will understand this. And actually, it appears that they do, because not a single embassy has rejected the minutes or opposed them. And the Postmaster General of the U.S. delivered a hard copy of the minutes to Indonesia's ambassador and to Mulyani Indrawati, who chairs the Board of Governors. I already have a huge position of trust because I vote the United States shares on the boards of governors and the Development Committee and the boards of executive directors, because there's a three-tier management system at the World Bank and IMF. And I do this until the U.S. Constitution of 1789 comes back into effect. And I'm attaching an email to the teleprompter which shows you why the United States governors are not authorized to take any decisions. They forgot to tell people that they have refused to give people the titles to their property and are only issuing bogus warranties of title. I've been polling people informally by using the comments section on my DCTV series archives, and you can see links to where these archives are on YouTube. The decisions shouldn't be delegated to experts because of the deep-seated corruption. YouTube is interfering with the comments. You can see that emails from the contact page on my website do get through to me, but many of the people who are sending me emails are actually agents of the Banking Cartel, and honest people and whistleblowers whom I've worked with for a long time get mind-controlled or intimidated by the threats. And so I can't just delegate to them without double-checking their recommendations. We are headed to a huge bottleneck. My suggested solution is to get people to try and understand what's going on in the global currency reset, to get them to try and do better, and to let them know that their performance is going to be audited at some point in the not-too-distant future by our cleansed, better selves that have actually decentralized. So while I haven't actually answered the question about municipal bonds, I have indicated that you should confer with the people who are around you and attempt to come up with a good solution, which is going to be looked into as we get up to speed in the global currency reset. And then I signed the letter. People have to know what to look for to see whether there's actually been any change. The Banking Cartel's shills say that you have to see bankers go to jail. No, they're not going to jail. The corruption is too deep for that. I discussed this in the context of a tweet about Iceland, and I reminded everyone that Iceland has not yet accepted its monetary gold reserves in the global currency reset. I was able to show people that the minutes of the last 3 years of annual meetings were on the global currency reset, with not a single embassy dissenting. The kinds of jobs that people work at in the economy are going to change, as new employment comes into place, for example, with clean energy, and old jobs end when the insolvent banking cartel is wound down. Last week, I confronted one of the firms in the network of global corporate control with a scam about dishwashers, where the network of global corporate control was claiming that prices included installation and then making their purchasers pay for installing the dishwashers in many states. I told Costco's and Citibank's employees that the scam was over. This may sound like no change at all to some. I spoke to the people at Costco after they refused to end the scam and insisted on delivering a dishwasher that I had canceled because of the scam. After being caught red-handed, Costco's employees were finally ashamed of themselves and relieved to just take back the dishwasher. At the beginning of the series, I told you that one indicator for whether we were making any progress was the level of trust for the press and journalists. Well, you have seen that the concept of fake news has certainly caught on. I then said that we needed to change our indicator to whether people could see gaps between official reality and reality as they understood it to be. Now, we've not yet talked about concrete measures to collect Federal Reserve notes, to wind down the Fed or any of the banks, or to exchange paper currencies. This is because the banking cartel has not yet admitted that this currency scam is over. Stay tuned, because the chances that we're going to get around to this are over 90%. If we don't, then we're in the middle of World War III, and we have lost our pensions. I've continued to tweet about the Department of Defense power transition model, which is the reason I'm confident of the global currency reset. And I've given you my latest tweet in the teleprompter. Instead, I'm going to tell you to focus on the fact that there was not a single embassy that rejected the letters which I mailed to 30 embassies in Washington on the Development Committee, to officers in the Intergovernmental Group of 24 on International Monetary Affairs. That's for the coalition of 134 developing countries, or the digital copies that I emailed to the other members of the World Bank and IMF. The series on DCTV also reinforces the reality. The banking cartel is a slow learner. It has a hard time learning that I punish it for breaking my links. Speaking of which, I just found out that the banking cartel removed a document that I posted on the 27th of July in 2016, just before I went to Canada on a family vacation, where the banking cartel used its scalar weaponry on me because it thought that was going to slow down the global currency reset. Well, I recovered, and this didn't scare me off. It made me very mad. As a fencer, I've learned not to thrash around when I'm mad. I drill down, bide my time, and then hit the old parry repost when my enemy is off their guard. So what you're seeing is my parry repost. I attached the document that the banking cartel removed on page 10 and 11 of the teleprompter. The banking cartel has been using Greece as a guinea pig to learn how much punishment people are going to take before the society loses all control. Well, that was a mistake for the banking cartel, because the Greek people are now leading the rest of the world in the global currency reset. The Nantucket sleigh ride is continuing. The banking cartel whale is on a one-way street to perdition. The U.S. Congress is outed as owned by the banking cartel. And I'm showing you a diagram which demonstrates how the Board of Governors approved the global currency reset to transfer the world's wealth in the global debt facility from the elites and banking cartel to the 99%ers. Ferdinand Marcos was appointed by José Rizal as M1. Now the Board of Governors must authenticate each and every transfer out of the global debt facility where José Rizal deposited the world's wealth. I don't think the banking cartel understands what a one-way street is, or critical mass, or the accuracy of the National War College's power transition model. They're about to find out. The Board of Governors of the World Bank and IMF deal with the real currency, which is the world's monetary gold reserves in the global debt facility. We're retiring the fake paper currency of the banking cartel by offsetting country debt against 2 quadrillion in Treaty of Versailles bonds owed by the Fed and held by the global debt facility. The global debt facility holds valid liens against the Fed, which is bankrupt, and it's going to be wound down. We're going to exchange the banking cartel's fake paper currency for aurum issued by the nations. YouTube is directing my viewers to the banking cartel's disinformation. This is how the power transition model that came to the World Bank in 2004 from the National War College works. Each of the stakeholders changes positions based on the positions of the other stakeholders. As you recall, the power transition model has been predicting with 90 to 95% accuracy that the global currency reset would occur after Elaine Colville and I disclosed the corruption in the international financial system to the UK Parliament, and after my testimony in the European Union Parliament, in the House of Commons Public Administration Committee, and I've got links to the various complaints that I gave to the UK Parliament. And Elaine Colville's complaint is really very well written. You should read that. I recommend it to you. At DCTV yesterday, I taped next week's segment in the series on the network of global corporate control. And the teleprompter, I'm giving that to you. I'll be sending it out shortly. It's no coincidence that these hidden facts are being disclosed now. The last thing I want to report is that I'm in contact with someone who's offering to give me the Euroclear reference numbers for the accounts of the global debt facility. Here's a voicemail message and our email correspondence, and you can hear his voice. This was just before I got zapped in Canada. And you can hear his voice. That was removed from the internet, and I put it back a couple of times. And of course, I wanted to mention it on DCTV just to rub it in, because the Coalition for the Rule of Law actually is stronger than the banking cartel, and we've proven this many, many times. It's taken a sustained effort over many years to convince the banking cartel that we mean business in cleaning up the corruption in the world's currencies. The cleanup is taking place at the center and at the grassroots simultaneously. Now that many people are helping their friends and relatives to see the corruption, the people working for the banking cartel are having to admit their many scams.